The first part of Dune left us shell-shocked, with Timothée Chalamet working his magic, the endless deserts, the beautiful glimpses of Zendaya, and the mind-blowing storyline. We got everything we hoped for, and more. And now it looks like we won't have to wait much longer as shooting for the second installment in the franchise wraps up. So, without further ado, let's talk about how Timothée Chalamet celebrates Dune Part 2 wrapping with BTS photo. Starting with the behind-the-scenes photo. An additional behind-the-scenes shot from the set of Dune Part 2 has been released in honor of Timothée Chalamet's last day of shooting. Warner Bros. Discovery gave Denis Villeneuve the go light to helm a sequel to 2021's Dune, after the film was a commercial and critical triumph. Since Villeneuve's film version of Frank Herbert's book is divided into two parts, Dune 2 will continue the storyline of Paul Atreides, who met the Freeman in the dunes of Arrakis in the first film. The completion of Dune 2's shoot has been confirmed. After completing production on Dune 2, Timothée Chalamet celebrated the end of shooting by posting a photo with his real-life father. In this photo, Chalamet is not wearing his Paul Atreides outfit, but the desert setting from the sequel is hinted at. The location of the shot, Chalamet, is unknown. However, production for Dune 2 moved to Abu Dhabi in November. Chalamet has already discussed his personal development since shooting the groundbreaking science fiction picture that won an Oscar. He compared working in the theater to working in cinema, saying that with the former, revisit is something you get to do. He said, actually though, I'm feeling that with Dune, speaking about how cycles match life, I was younger when I did it than the first time and was blindsided by how big that movie was. And now as character Paul Atreides becomes surer on his heels, I feel surer on my heels too. Up next, Austin Butler also talked about Part 2. Austin Butler, who has been seen all over film festivals this year thanks to his performance in Elvis, was cast months ago as the villainous sci-fi son of a bitch Feyd-Rautha Harkonnen in Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2. Any more discussion of the character or his participation in the events of the following film would inevitably include spoilers. If you haven't read Frank Herbert's Dune but have seen Villeneuve's first film based on the novel, you should know that Feyd is terrible. He's a spoiled prince with a temper and one of the main enemies of Paul Atreides, if only in fiction. It's likely that Butler will be asked a lot of leading questions about the film that he won't be able to answer in the weeks leading up to its release, but in a recent interview he teased his much maligned persona for the first time. Butler claimed the MTV News' Josh Horowitz that he was given the part over a coffee meeting with Villeneuve, and that there was no need for him to audition. Actor Gerard Butler said that he trained for 4 months in preparation for his part, saying that he simply wanted to get his physique to a point where he could be physically intimidating presence. Butler, when asked if he approved of the character's final appearance, said yes, and that he believes it's going to be wonderful before breaking into laughter. Let's look at some deets on the movie. This summer, director Denis Villeneuve returned to Budapest, Abu Dhabi, Jordan, and Italy to begin filming the sequel. This follow-up picture will detail the mythological adventure of Paul Atreides as he joins the Chani and the Freeman while on a warpath of retribution against the conspirators who slaughtered his family, states the official description for Dune Part 2 from Warner Bros. And Legendary Entertainment. He tries to stop a dreadful future that only he can see, but it means choosing between the love of his life and the destiny of the known universe. Chalamet spoke highly of Zendaya and Pugh, who plays the new series addition Princess Irulan, during an interview for Variety's Bones and All cover. Florence is a one-of-a-kind city, as Chalamet put it. He praised her acting skills, saying she was outstanding. She blew everyone away with her performance in Dune. She gave seriousness to the part she was playing. Even Timothy, at my tender age, can't fathom my wonderful fortune. Zendaya in Dune and Taylor Russell in Bones and All. Also, Austin Butler is featured in this film, which just makes it amazing. Moving on, here is what we know about the release date. After some rescheduling, Dune 2 will finally hit theaters on November 3rd, 2023. The original release date of October 20, 2023 was moved back to November 17, 2023, and then Warner Bros. Brought the release date up to the present. We know that the publication date holds, but know that anything may happen in the publishing industry. Unlike the first film, which premiered on HBO Max the same day it opened in theaters in the United States, the sequel will probably only be shown in theaters throughout the country. Now we're going over the cast. When the production began, we were also given the pleasure of hearing the names of those returning for the sequel, as well as the names of the newcomers. We suspected Zendaya's Chani would play a bigger part in the sequel, sequel when Paul finally met her at the conclusion of the first film, and she does. Timothée Chalamet reprises his role as Paul Atreides in the sequel, and he'll be joined by Zendaya. The wicked Baron Harkonnen, Stellan Skarsgård, and his nephew Glosso Robin Dave Bautista, also known as the Beast, both reprise their roles from the first film. Bardem, like Zendaya, will be featured more prominently in the sequel after the actor told Variety Fair that Villanueva had pitched him the larger role. But don't look for Oscar Isaac to reprise his role as Duke Leto Atreides or Babs Olusanmakan to come back as Jameis. They perished at the end of the first film. As followers of the books know, however, there is a chance that Jason Momoa may reprise his role as Duncan Idaho in a later installment of the franchise. After House Harkonnen's invasion of Arrakis, the futures of both Gurney Halleck, Josh Brolin, and Tafir Hawat, Stephen McKinley Henderson, were in doubt, but both will return in the sequel. Elvis actor Austin Butler has been cast as Feyd-Rautha, Florence Pugh as Princess Irulan, Christopher Walken as Emperor Shaddam IV, and Léa Seydoux as Lady Margot have all been confirmed for Part 2. Here's what we know of the plot. When the sequel was officially announced, the following story summary was released. In this sequel film, we will see Paul Atreides join forces with Chani and the Freemen in order to exact vengeance on the conspirators responsible for the death of his family. He tries to stop a dreadful future that only he can see, but doing so means choosing between the love of his life and the destiny of the known universe. In the first film, Paul and Lady Jessica had just been welcomed by the Freemen and were on their way to Stilgar's mansion when the story ended. Covering little more than half of Herbert's novel, House Atreides has been almost wiped out. Thus, in the sequel, it will be Paul's ideas of the future come true as he leads a revolution against the Empire. Villanueva said that he considers cutting the film short to accommodate the time leap in the novel, but ultimately decided that his initial feeling to cut after Paul encounters the Freeman was the best choice. Insightful glimpses into the character's ultimate fate, which may be linked to Chani and the Freeman of Arrakis, were hinted at in the first film thanks to Paul's precognitive abilities. Villanueva hinted that the sequel would go more deeply into these aspects, especially Feyd-Rautha. He compared it to a game of chess and hinted that other players might be included in the sequel. You shouldn't take your speculations as reality just yet, even if you've read the book, since Javier Bardem has been hinting that the sequel won't be a direct adaptation. Following up, it was always meant to be a two-part movie. From the beginning, Denis Villeneuve had made it clear that the only reason he decided to helm Dune for Legendary Entertainment and Warner Brothers was that they promised to allow him to adapt Frank Herbert's book into 2 films. The filmmaker planned to shoot both Dune movies simultaneously at first, but the studio was wary of the financial risks involved in adapting the novel. Villanueva hopes to direct a sequel to his 2010 film, Dune, which will be greenlit if the first film's successful at the box office and on HBO Max. At this point, there can be no doubt that Dune 2 will be released. When the picture was still in pre-release, Villanueva was optimistic that he would take his 2-part concept through to completion. And now, this might not be the very last movie of the series. Denis Villeneuve has said publicly that he would want to direct a Dune trilogy, which would include an adaptation of the 1969 sequel book, Dune Messiah, by Frank Herbert. The original plan was to make 2 films out of the novel. According to the filmmaker, there is Dune's second novel, The Messiah of Dune, which might make an outstanding picture. Before the first film's US release, there might be a trilogy, which has always been my expectation. What happens beyond that is anyone's guess. It took me years to get here, and I'm not sure what else I could do with my life. Finally, we got a look at the set too. Luca Guadagnino talks about how he got a sneak glimpse at the Dune Part 2 set, thanks to Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya. Bones and All, directed by Guadagnino and starring Chalamet, opened in cinemas on November 18th. It is the pair's second film together. Their first, Call Me By Your Name, was a critical and commercial success in 2017. Challengers, his forthcoming feature opposite Zendaya, will be released in August 2023. Director Luca Guadagnino tells Rotten Tomatoes how he and actors Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya visited the Dune 2 set in Budapest. When asked about the set, he marveled at its size and praised its amazing construction. That's a wrap for this video. So, what did you think of all these BTS snippets? Are you excited for Dune Part 2 to come to the big screen? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.